What's up? Welcome to the Sword Art Online show. I am super excited. We have a full panel today, diving into episode 22, Alice. We're almost at the end. What? So, oh my goodness. Thank you everybody for being here. And thank you. My panel will go around this way. There we go. We have Alex Von David.
Hi, everybody.
And wait, nope, point that way. There we go. Got Jen. Hello. We got Rinko, otherwise known as Rinko. And we got Kayli. Alice. Yay! And we have all of you live in the chat. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching this later, no worries, comment down below. We'll try to get to your questions. So if you've got those, fire away. All right, so we're nearing the end. Oh my goodness. Kayli and Jen have been on recently. Alex, it's been a little bit. So how do you feel that we're almost at the last episode?
Ladies?
Well, I was going to say, Alex, you can go first because they got to talk about it last week or so of like, you know, we're nearing the end. So, Alex, how's it feel?
Well, technically, I finished working on this thing like a couple months ago now. So it's been over for a while. But watching the episode again, it brought back some memories just of the sessions that we had. Of course, this whole arc has been recorded remotely, so I didn't get to see anybody. But it's it's kind of like wow, it's finally over. But again, like I said, it ended for me a couple months ago. So I've already worked on a couple of things since then, and working on something now. So it's kind of like my head's in a different sort of space for stuff. But yeah, watching it again was just the Kirito at the end, still made me, get all choked up. Bryce did such a great job on it. And then of course, Kayli and Jen, your guests today. You guys
say something nice.
So amazing. With the introduction scene, the introduction of Alice and stuff to the world and stuff. And I know, Jen, you were particularly fired up to get into it and dig into some of the philosophy and all this stuff. And so the sessions were really fun. And at least on my end, I don't know about you ladies, but it was great listening to you perform those lines. So.
Aww. Thank you. I was like, which order are we going in?
Well, let's go with Jen, because it was so great to have Rinko. I mean, she's had her moments for sure, and we've talked about a bit of them. Yeah. But now was really a nice professional, literal stage for her to show her competence, her, just what she's been working on, and to a general public, because before it's been her own circle essentially. Yeah. So, Jen, how was that for you for Rinko to command an audience?
Yeah, it's nice to see her off the ocean turtle. This is the first time we see that, other than the flashback scene from the very beginning, where she meets Kirito. But it's exciting to see what is real world Rinko, along with real world Alice. In terms of the how does it feel? Like Alex said, it's been a bit, so it's just sort of being sad all over again for it ending again. But for me, since the beginning, I was like, God, I really hope Rinko and Alice get to meet. They get to have a scene together where they actually interact. And so once I saw the sub, I was like, yes, I've been waiting for this the whole time. I can't wait to have a scene with Kayli. I've been talking about her for like a million episodes. And now I get to meet her. But it's exciting to really get that side of her personality where she gets to be sort of in command and put everybody in their place, which I quite love that opening scene, especially what Kayli says. Alice's comments are so perfect that I feel like, and Kayli, I'll let you answer for that, but I've been in those kind of situations where you're like, why is that what you said? And so to sort of have that for Rinko is fun. And also getting to see her change her clothes was cool. She has a couple outfits during this episode. So it's nice to know that life will go on for her as well as Alice, that her story is not over, even if we don't get to see it in the anime.
That's a good point. And
she's the boss now. So
yes,
take
right?
that, geeks.
Yes. It's ladies' night at the press conference for sure.
It is.
And speaking of that, then, Kayli, how was it for you of Alice getting this moment to defend herself in a different kind of way? Because we even have her bow where she's holding for her sword, which is, not needed as much in this world, but she definitely holds her own in this scene. So how was that scene, and how was it this episode?
Yeah, I love that. A lot of what I loved about it was she kind of has come into her own as who she is. But she still maintains that night as a part of who she is, even when she's in the real world, even when she doesn't technically need it. So I thought that was really cool. The way that she handled herself was just not aggressive at all. It was just it was so her. It was so refined and but it was still such a jab. I think Jen was probably referring to when she's like, "What if we crack your skull open and see what's going on in there?" And I just thought that was so great. They're both so chill through the whole thing. Because this is Rinko's baby project, but Rinko sees Alice as a human, and she's always seen it that way. So she kind of defends her like her actual baby, and they're both just being boss ladies up there. That was great.
It's awesome.
Well, on that note, and I guess a technical question that I don't get into just yet, and then Alex, if you want to answer, so. I mean, in a literal sense, how would you prove she's not an organic human being? Is it how, in some sci-fi, if you cut open their arm, it would be organic tissue on top, but then there would be, some kind of cybernetics or something inside that's robotic. Because clearly, if you cut open someone's head, if we're treating her as, that would kill her, that's not doable. But is there a way that they could have done that? But then if she feels it, then it's pain, and why would you inflict pain?
Well, I mean, so she's in a robot body. So Alice is a consciousness that's stored on a hard drive, basically, or in this sort of brain that's in this digital brain that's in this mechanical body. So there's no cutting open anything. It's not cybernetics like Terminator or anything like that. It's she is a soul that is operating this machine. She is the ghost in the machine, and that's pretty much it. You just Rinko tells that one person, that one reporter. She says, "Look, we have the Turing tests, available for you. You can see what this AI is capable of doing." But I mean, ultimately, yeah, that's the Turing test is probably the best way to prove that the AI is real, as what Rinko is claiming Alice's capabilities are. That's pretty much all you got. But yeah, you don't want to cut open that body because oil is going to leak all over the floor and it's going to be slippery. So.
Well, it just raises that interesting question because sci-fi does have fun delving into this of if you touch her, is it warm? How solid is it? But SAO deals with that in a different sense because it's your mental mind in a digital world, but you feel it too. So it's as you're saying, or as we've covered, that it's just interesting kind of philosophy discussion of what makes something real and what is that barometer that qualifies it.
I mean, according to the show, it's your consciousness is what makes you real, and it's what makes you human. Again, as Rinko says in the press conference, she says, these AIs have been born. They were born and raised just like us. It takes the same amount of time to raise them. So they are essentially human. They're just not what we understand or we, relate to as being human. But their consciousness is very much human. They have human souls. So just because they're in a robot body, does that make them not human? No, I don't think so. Because again, it's, if I'm in a wheelchair, am I not human? If I lose my leg and have a prosthetic, if I lose both legs and have prosthetics, am I suddenly not human? Everybody says it's what's inside that counts, but a lot of people are like, well, not really, because it's, you have to look right, and you have to sound right, and you have to, you can't be weird and all this stuff. Oh no, fuck, it's human. It is what's inside. So.
Right.
comment.
I don't know if you meant it as a joke, but I agree. She's the ghost in the shell.
That was what first came in. Yeah.
It's a trope. I mean, this is a science fiction trope. It's been around for decades.
Yeah. Oh, and the show does it so well, and it just makes. I'm glad that the show brings up these discussion points and addresses them to some extent. And then I think someone was asking, be curious if Yui could get a body, which would be interesting.
I mean, it's possible just because of, in season 2, they had that little robot pod that Yui could hang out in on Asuna's shoulder. Mm-hmm. And so she could like go with them to the park and stuff. So it's, I mean, according to the technology in the show, the AI Fluctlights of the Underworld would be able to power this particular robot body. An AI like Yui, I mean, I'm sure if a sophisticated consciousness, if a bottom-up AI could pilot a body like Alice's in the real world, then a top-down AI like Yui, she could definitely pilot something like that. So I have not read any of the books beyond War of Underworld, where they delve more into what's going on in the Underworld now that it's like, I don't know, now that it's advanced so many hundreds of years since Kirito and Asuna sort of were the king and queen of it. They'll probably bring stuff like that up. Maybe there'll be a Rinko Kayaba reunion.
I was going to say, I like how she's like, look, someday we might want to marry some AI. That's totally cool. Just
totally
putting it out there.
Ooh, are we projecting Rinko?
Floating the feelings out here, just in case my boyfriend shows up in another robot. I'm just keeping my options open.
Yep.
Also, another form of technology. I love that via it being televised, our whole group, our gang is able to watch this happen, and they were so happy to see it. Happy to see Alice look pretty much exactly the same. Which is really cool because if you're, your sense of self is what you look like. So if you can't take that into another realm, I think that could, rattle you a little bit. Right. So that's probably helpful for her.
Especially because she is a real person. Like, imagine how like if we woke up and like our hair was a different color or like our nose was suddenly different, like we would be like super freaked out about that. We wouldn't feel like ourselves. So imagine if they just put her in like, the robot that was like in the ocean.
Right. Just like each came on in the beginning.
Each came on, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be horrifying.
That would be horrifying for so many reasons.
And then people are with you that one, Jen, of Rinko. And
I'm not saying it's problematic. I'm just saying the heart wants what the heart wants.
Right? Yes. And then we kind of talked a little bit, but Kayli, how did you enjoy? How much did you enjoy getting to have some sass with Alice in a more verbal debate with people rather than just physical fight? Because she's normally a little more, she's very level-headed. She doesn't get, she's not ever really rude at anybody. And not that she's rude now, but I enjoyed the like clap back at people.
I love that because I think like the stakes were so high in the Underworld and she's been through so much that she gets here and someone's like trying to be like, I don't know if you're a real person, like I don't like things that are different, and she's just like, girl, no. She's just totally over it, just instantly like, I'm not gonna put up with this. I loved how she handled that.
Yeah.
We're like, look, AI rights are human rights, and get out of the press conference if you're not on board.
I told my mom on you already. She's right here.
Yes,
I will delete.
And so then this kind of leads to the other idea, which was their other point. Like, what if humans found out they have a creator, and depending on which religion and philosophy you go with on that, I'd be like, yes, some would say so. But if that person, entity, whatever have you, came down and told humans to do something, I don't think humans would be like, yeah, sure. I mean, some maybe, but others might be a bit no. So it's cool that the show brings that up. And Jen, how was that of those moments of hearing that kind of discussion for you?
And I love how they really split this between Alice and Rinko, because I think that further goes to show you like how human Alice is, that she has these like really wise philosophical thoughts that like the dum-dums in the crowd like that didn't occur to. So I love that, they're clearly like the most I guess, kind and open and intelligent people in this room. And getting to hear that from Alice versus hearing it out of Rinko, I think is important and powerful for, just how advanced she is. And there are those moments where Alice is like, wait, what now? Like, I'm sorry, you did what study? But I think that's a really smart point of, look, we live in a time right now where people really don't want to be told how to do certain things, and they're just not. So I feel like, if somebody was like, hi, guess what you're all doing now? Humans would be like, no, we're gonna go Underworld style. We're gonna fight you.
Well, I like that they address the point of, and again, it's a lot of tropes are in the show, but I like when shows, movies address like these things exist. Well, what about all the movies and shows that have this in it? Oh, good, thank you, because we as an audience go, but wait a minute,
right?
And
I saw iRobot, so like I know.
Rinko's like, no, hold on, we did think about that, and then Alice is like, oh, really? And but it makes sense.
Because in all of those movies, like they're usually oppressed and they're rising up. And so if we just treat them like humans and we don't oppress them, then there will be no angry Fluctlight uprising. So just be kind and put away that chainsaw, news guy.
And I thought the way Rinko handled it was so graceful too, because she could have just been like, look, you guys are really stupid and I'm smarter than you, and like, let me tell you why. But she's trying to communicate things in a way that like maybe they will come to understand and like be on their side about it rather than just fighting them on it.
Because winning them over is the only way to achieve their hope of getting people to interact with the people in the underworld.
Well, as Kikuoka says later in the episode, part of the plan is to get people to actually dive into the underworld and interact with the underworlders and see how they live and interact with them. They're not just NPC types, I guess, in a video game that have a programmed sort of trajectory, like a daily sort of routine. They're going to stand by this rock until you walk by, and then they're going to give you a prize or whatever. They're people with like lives and families and jobs and hopes and dreams and things that humans have. Trees cut down.
Well, because then we get into feelings, because then Alice is like, referring to somebody and that she loves him. And we've had many debates on what level of love this is, but she at least expresses that like, she can have feelings, and Alice then isn't tuned into Kirito, and I like her spidey sense of there's a disturbance in the force.
She's patched in. She's living in a digital body, so she has access to. I mean, she's linked. She's online all the time, and I'm sure that one of the stipulations she had, it wasn't said in the novels, but one of the stipulations was, I want to be able to monitor Kirito at all times, and I'm sure that was
all these girls with their Kirito apps.
I was like, is that love or stalking?
With Alice, it's love, because
or it's both. No,
that was the first time Kayli made me cry in the episode, but not the last. I think it was that part. I was like, so many feelings,
right? Well, I was gonna say, speaking of feelings, and we kind of mentioned them already, but we learned that Keeks is okay and not dead, because I kind of was wondering myself. I was like, wait a minute. But we learned that there's kind of corruption and a lot more going on behind the scenes than even they expected, all the way up to the Vice Minister of Defense and talking with the U.S. And it's been mentioned before, but it's really kind of interesting and cool how the show now is becoming this arc is far more tapping into real world places. Like earlier on, it's far more localized. It's only in Japan or something like that. And now it's like, oh, now we're interacting with other countries and what kind of war and what kind of, defense and strategic technology we want to use or take. So that's been an interesting development in the show.
Yeah.
So then that kind of goes to, but why, why should we do this? Because then we could go public, and it just shows that they made that. So Alex, how was that kind of shift in the show of, one, connecting in the real world, and as we kind of said too with Kikuoka, it's like, we want people to interact with them. And then also if it's public, you could be like, well, we made it. We went public.
And it's also going to be harder, like Kikuoka says, it's going to be harder to, for anybody to like take the technology away with sort of normal sort of corporate maneuvering. you know, he says that, I think I remember he said something about how the government wants to just sort of divide up the tech among a bunch of different vague conglomerates. And, you know, I mean, ultimately it's about money and power, right? So this tech was originally supposed to be, you know, like Kayli's character is supposed to be put in a drone.
Yeah.
So, but now they realize, holy shit, these are people. We raised a world, you know, and this is another form of humanity right now. So now it's like, I'm pretty sure Kikuoka doesn't want to proceed in this drone warfare project.
Yeah.
I think he has his conscience won't allow it. I know Higa's doesn't. I definitely know Rinko's conscience does not want to go there.
Yeah.
But I mean, but this is where technology's at right now. I mean, they've already got, you know, drones that are piloted by AI. So.
And we know what politicians can push for.
Mm-hmm.
Also.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, speaking into the waking up in a different kind of way, this is when we get Kirito waking up and he's in the hospital. Funny one here for Alice of Alice having feelings for Kirito. Asuna, the girls be like, girl, get in line. This is true. I like we can make fun of, yes, the harem for sure. So I like that. So one, he wakes up, and then kind of a question for everybody. He chooses to have the memory dumped. It is addressed in a way of, you know, could a human being handle that? But it seems like having those memories are painful, but in a way, having them be kind of gone seems to hurt Kirito as well. So one, what do you think of that? And then two, would you want to keep them memories of that time? But I guess it depends on those memories. So Alex, what about you?
How about Kayli first? I've been talking too much.
Kayli's
really
Kayli.
Quiet.
That's such a hard thing because he made that decision after he went through whatever he went through. And at this point, we don't know all of what he's gone through. So of course, in 200 years, you're definitely going to have some painful memories sprinkled in there. I don't think they just like everything was happy, rainbow cotton candy after that. Clearly it wasn't. But yeah, that's really hard because I feel like you wouldn't be able to function the same way because you, after 200 years of developing whatever personality you developed as a result of what you've been through, you're not the same person anymore. You're not returning as the same person to your family who loves you and misses you. Your relationships just aren't going to be the same because your side of it is completely different now. So that's a real tough decision to make. I'd say if I was going back to my loved ones, maybe I would have my memory erased. Maybe I would have it copied, but so that like it was there in case someone needed it. But I don't know. Like, I feel like that would be a lot to take away from the people that love me and were waiting for me.
That's an excellent point. Jen, what about you?
That's a brilliant answer. I'm stealing that. Well, you know, you brought up such a good point of the person that you're going back into isn't the person you are now. Mm-hmm. And so if you are grappling with that for, you know, that information and you're now in a place where you're like, I don't feel the same way about these people, or I want to be living this other life. I don't know how you would get through that day. You know, oppositely, if you're aware that it's been zapped, that's different. Because I think that's the problem that Kirito has, is he knows that he's missing a piece of his memory. Whereas if they could like zap you, but you have no idea that you've missed out, I guess that's the right. See, I don't know. I'm just like, oh, I would want to have all the information I could ever have because that's who I am. That's the Rinko part of me. But I think Jen's sanity, I think would have to be like, as long as I don't know you did this, get rid of it so that I can live my life without worrying about that parallel life I'm not living.
Or you could get yourself.
My brain hurts. I'm not going to sleep tonight thinking about this.
And then we also have the fact that Alice's sister gets herself frozen because she just wants to wait for her to come back, which is like, oh, you just hope she's safe because you're like, well, wait, it's a long.
I'm sure Kirito and Asuna made sure that she was safe up in the cathedral because she's in a very specific part of the cathedral.
True.
So I don't know how they advanced the civilization of the underworld as far as philosophically or maturity-wise or anything. In the next episode, we'll find out how far they've advanced in not only the 200 years in underworld time that Kirito and Asuna were there, but the extra couple of 100 years after they're out, because the underworld is still running at like 5 million times the speed of our time. So
which is a great point that I hadn't thought of when they're sending, you know, people into the underworld to hang out. Like, what underworld are they going to go into? Is it the underworld that we all left, or is it 500 years or however many into the underworld where everything is redacted, and like that's so different?
It'll be a slightly more advanced underworld than what Kirito and Asuna had popped out of.
Decently redacted.
Yeah. So
I see the comment. So Kirito says he says actually when he's breaking down, when he wakes up, he asks Higa to only erase up to when the maximum acceleration phase kicked in. Mm-hmm. So he kept the memories of Yu-Gi-Oh! And when he's breaking down at the end, he's lamenting the fact that why didn't I erase those two? Yeah. Because he still gets fleeting glimpses of the time he and Asuna were there as the quote king and queen. So he gets fleeting glimpses of those, but he definitely remembers Yu-Gi-Oh! And all the time that he spent there with him. So
all the girls
Brandon
for him in this
did
episode.
an incredible job.
Yeah.
That was his last episode of the season.
Yeah.
Because it's such a complicated kind of question of would you want to keep that? But that's probably a smart move in terms of Kirito can keep up till where they were at that moment. Because that other part is more just extra. You know, he had most of the relationship building at that first half of time. It's that back end that we don't really get to see. We get to see glimpses. But as Kayli was saying, you know, it affects who you are, and you won't be the same person coming back after all those experiences. So,
and that's why when you hear Kirito wake up, he sounds the way he does.
I love that.
Both in the Japanese version and in the English version, Bryce and I made sure that he sounded really tired, and really tired and serious. Because he is matured beyond what a human has ever lived. And so he's got all this baggage. He's seen generations of like Ronier and Tisei and their grandkids and their great grandkids. You know, he's seen them all die. He's, you know, seen them all live. I mean, there's all these things too. Again, I haven't read beyond War of Underworld arc. But just, you know, logically, those are the things that are going on. And when we get to hear Kirito's cloned soul, Clonito or whatever, you know, he sounds exactly the same. Yeah. He's tired. He's 200 something years old. Yeah. So it's that emotionally he is at a place where no one has ever gone before. He is super mature, super old, and super tired.
Bryce did a really fantastic job with that too.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I think that was such a great example too of like, even if you don't, you know, age in a voice acting performance or whatever isn't like how high you pitch your voice or how low. Like there's so much more to it. Like he's had Kirito down that low before and it didn't sound anything like that, like age wise. And then weight here and you're like, there's a lot of weight to this.
Yeah. Bryce and I talked about that a bit before we started recording that, so he knew what he was getting into.
We've kind of covered it a little bit. I've had a few people in the chat bring up at this point, after they've stopped what's been going on at the Turtle, that the time is back to a regular thing. As a couple people are saying that, but I thought it was still faster.
As far as I know, it's still sped up, but I mean,
it might not be
I could be wrong, because in the show they don't specify it. They may have in the novels, but it's been a while since I've read those books. So I defer to the people who have, you know, read that recently. So
because when it's at its normal state, it's still accelerated, but it's not like crazy accelerated. So it might be running at its like normal clip. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I think. But I defer as well.
Well, we know a lot of time. It's still at least 200 years. So, I mean, that alone is a good chunk of time. So thank you, chat.
Yeah, thanks.
So we have Asuna when she talks to Kirito of like the memories will always be there, even if it's not quite the same thing. And it does seem like that like, you know, it'll be more that kind of foggy, the harder you try to hold on to it might go away memory, but some of them will still be there. Then we have, as you mentioned, I'm glad you brought that up. We got the part where I'm like, ooh, Higa kind of went dark when we find out he copied Kirito's soul without necessarily permission. And he's like, well, you're the longest living person. I could not give that up, which in a scientific way, I do understand that, but it's still kind of like,
that's an ethical swamp. Yeah. You know? I gasped when I watched that in the sub. I was like, oh, you are not getting burgers now, Higa. Absolutely not. No,
well, he also
zero.
I'm glad that he even looks darker. He's just like, I'm doing this stuff. Like his face is just like the lighting and everything. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, he knows it's unethical. He knows it's unethical.
Right.
But he has that scientist curiosity that he can't stop himself.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, some of that is what drove Akihiko.
Yep.
So Kayli, you're not Kayli, you're not in the underworld. Is Alice saving everybody? Because now we learn Kirito's going to be, you know, because he's the only one to protect the underworld. What do you think of this kind of shift where it's like this clone soul digital thing of Kirito is the one that's protecting the underworld, which we still don't really know exactly how that's going to work out. And satellite connections.
I mean, I don't think Alice or anyone else has any clue that that's happening yet, that this other copy of Kirito exists at all. But she meets the Kirito that's been through 200 years really briefly, like because she goes to see him right when he wakes up. I don't remember. I think she knows though that he has his memories awake because she's there when he asked for that. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. I don't know what Alice would think of this other copy of Kirito protecting the underworld.
Well, she can hook up with that Kirito, and then regular OG Kirito can stay with Asuna.
I mean, I guess that Asuna's gone. No, she wouldn't do that. There's way too much going on.
Clonito would probably look at Alice and be like, "You're way too young.
You're a literal infant."
Yeah.
He's like, no.
I think Alice's whole what she's going through right now is like she had, you know, this purpose of protecting when she was in the underworld, and then she had to give that up because she was the one who had to be protected. But now she's in this new world and she's trying to figure out her purpose again, and it's been shifted so many times. She's just like, why? She's back to like, why? You know, and that's just tough. Like she's just been thrown in all these different directions.
Well, you notice, I think Kayli, you even noticed this when we were recording and stuff, how Alice, she always presents herself as a knight to people. She goes and puts her hand where her sword would be and, you know, goes to salute as if I mean, again, she's been ripped out of a world that she had, you know, grown up in and became a knight in and all this stuff. And suddenly she's in this world and there are like cars, you know, cars and airplanes and shit. There's no dragons. There's no like magic, you know, or anything like that. And she's, you know, her headspace is still like, it's trapped. It's kind of like, you know, there's underworld and then the real world. And she doesn't know she's a literal fish out of water.
And they put her in heels. I'm like, why?
She was wearing them as a knight. They
were like baby
she had boots with heels.
That was like this. Those were some like bigger heels that I would think she'd be like, no, I want the next scene where she's away from the party, kicks her shoes off and is like, rips part of the dress because it's too tight.
Yeah. You know, Rinko had nothing to do with this conversation because she would have been like Chucks, like putting her in flat shoes.
Oh, she'd be a pantsuit. Alice would rock a pantsuit.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also love an OVA of Alice like discovering real world things. Like she's just in the kitchen and like the ice maker goes off and she just like destroys it. It's an enemy. It's like, what was that?
Yeah. Actually, then on that, we'll go with Alice's last bit here. come back to Higa in a moment. So Alice, at the very end here, she says, Kirito, I feel like I might die. And we can't say exactly what that means, but Kayli, how was that kind of moment for you? And Alice is at this party. She really clearly feels like a fish out of water, and it's not the world she's used to.
Yeah, because beyond kind of like searching for this new purpose, she's constantly had to be in this public eye, putting on the front and trying to like be this put together leader, because she's the only example of this kind of AI in their world right now. Like, she can't flub up, she can't look weak, and she's used to not being able to look weak too. So she just has no time to like chill out and think about things at all, or like take a break or relax. And on top of it, like, her heart's aching for Kirito, and like, yeah, there's a lot going on. And she's still at the party. She still has to go back to the party. And she's like, please no. I think we've all been there. Like, why am I still here?
She's like, can I just leave?
So much is writing on her to present that, that the Underworld folks are lovely and human and everything. And that's just a lot of pressure anyway, on top of all the things she's going through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We kind of touched upon this, but yeah, if you have anything else. So yeah, Alice says she's withering away in the real world. It's just because she's not used to it, or is there more? But this might be spoilers related to something else. I think you kind of touched upon it, Kayli, unless you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say there is also more, but I'm sure just being in a completely different world with things that you've never seen before is a little bit overwhelming.
Oh, yeah. And then it was... Where was it? I was trying to find
You need an assistant.
I know. Well, I don't want to cut ahead, people. Thank you, everyone, for all your questions and comments. If I don't get to it, it's like if we're not at that moment. I can't find your comment, so I'm sorry. But Alex, it was a question for you about adapting, and if there's any major changes. So if there's any big changes that have stood out to you in this arc, or these more episodes toward the end that you would like to touch upon, or were there any particular adapting moments that were tricky for you with this back end part of the season?
Aside from the usual things, like, we have, 2 mouth flaps, and we got to fit in, like, the Gettysburg Address or whatever into 2 mouth flaps. It's just the usual. The one thing in this episode that I remember took a lot of time to get right was, at least on the page, Jen finally made it right. Was Rinko's speech, especially about the parts about what the future might be like with AIs. We might marry them, we might have families and all this stuff. And the book, I managed to figure out a way to write it so that it worked out timing wise, and it still had some sort of like natural English conversational flow to it. Yeah. But it was those big chunks of Rinko's speech that those are the ones that took a little bit longer to figure out in this episode. Thank God it wasn't all on camera.
Yeah,
that helped a lot. Yeah. And then, of course, because Jen already had seen the episode, and I mean, Jen's dialed into this tech too. So it's not, I mean, Jen, do you still work on games, like in the background in production and stuff as well, and development?
Occasionally I help with like casting, but I don't actually like produce games anymore. But yeah, we definitely had conversations about like stress tests and like betas and how all of that stuff works. Commenting code, I remember talking about that with 871. It was, I remember watching this in the sub and I was like, oh, I can't wait for this. And I'm not saying this because you're here. I was like, I can't wait to see how Alex adapts this, because there's a lot of care taken that's really important to me with both Alice and Rinko in here, where, they're never questioned about their jobs because they're a woman. Like they just are authority figures, and they are respected and they are listened to, which you start seeing get turned a little bit in the press conference where it's not about gender, but they're like, sorry, like we get that you're like the people, but please cut these heads open. And so what I think Alex did so well with this scene, which could have been a real bear, and it sounds like it was, I see the final version. So I see the one that's like been agonized over and like sleepless nights have gone into. But it goes sort of from being like, I'm going to science you, but I can't science you too much because you're the public and you're not Higa and Kikuoka. I can't talk to you the way I talk to them. I have to explain this in like human understanding science terms, but also this personal thing that's rising in her, where it goes from being about Alice and the Underworld to also being about her at the same time. And so there's these sort of like two tracks in what Rinko's talking about of like, Alice and then humanity, but also like Rinko feelings. And all three of those are coursing through this giant monologue that all has to hit, the flaps and has to do all the things. And, the gift that we get as actors working with someone like Alex is we don't have to work extra hard to make it sound conversational. We have to sometimes work extra hard to be like, there's an extra syllable, or like I say a certain word a certain way and that's going to change. But we don't have to work to make it feel like the heart is what's speaking. And so that's something I think that's extra beautiful in this last episode. And this one is there's so much heart and emotion in the words that we just have to get out of the way and just be present in these characters and say them without having to put anything on top of it.
But I have to add to that, it was also good casting to have you particularly playing Rinko, because you weren't the actor who comes in going, this is all bullshit. It's like, wait, what? Can you please explain this to me? It's like, well, it's actually kind of simple. You know how people say it's what's inside that counts? This is what they're talking about. This is part of what they're talking about. But I mean, you know about AIs and stuff. I mean, you know more about that tech than I do.
Sure.
And so, having you there playing Rinko was like, it wasn't an issue about arguing, because I've had arguments with actors. Nobody in this group, nobody in Sword Art, nobody had ever in Sword Art. But I've had arguments with actors. They get cast for a character and they totally disagree with the character's philosophy or their attitude. And they're like, yeah, why would I say this? And I'm like,
because it says to.
Well, it's not only that. Like I'm not that kind of director. I want to be the kind of guy who goes, okay, let's talk about this. Here's why your character believes it. This is what they've been through. This is what, the last couple episodes we recorded. Yeah, this is why you were doing those things back then. It's because of this moment. This is your ethos here.
Yeah.
It's, I've been fortunate to be working with folks like Kayli, Jen, Bryce, Jeremy, Michelle, everybody on Sword Art, because, everybody, there was no pushback from anybody. Whoever played whatever character, they always kind of were like, they were open to discussion and stuff, but they didn't have any sort of resistance as far as like any sort of philosophical or religious or moral resistance or anything like that. They just kind of like accepted, okay, I'm playing this character and this is what I feel and this is what I think. Okay, cool. I'm going to go along that line until the end and see what happens. And everybody's been great about it. So
we're all a pretty good team.
It's like facing that discomfort. Like if you're playing a character that like you completely disagree with, like it's going to be uncomfortable for you to like realistically portray that character, but you have to like be prepared for that. I mean, we're lucky
or
with
you
like
quit.
Rinko and Alice, but
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, you'll often play a character that, I've been lucky, like Rinko and other characters I play are very close to me, but I've played characters that are very different and you just have to go, okay, well, this is how I would deal with it, but I'm not me. I am this person. And so I I might have feelings about Akihiko and Rinko and where things might be, I might make different choices, but then you think about it, you're like, no, if I was in that situation, I would make all those choices too. Like which is why I cried all the way through episode 21 when I watched it for the first time. I was mad at it and I cried. I was like, no, like Rinko, oh God, it's terrible. Because
perfect fit.
You understand
you guys were cast perfectly. Oh, there we go.
I was gonna say that because like Rinko's the kind of character, like if you look at surface level just right away, like this is Rinko, she's a scientist lady. How easy would it be to play that character one note? But like that character is not one note. She has so much heart, and I think Jen brings so much to it. Like, she nails like I'm this like boss lady, I'm the scientist, but like the heart is always there too, and that's where I think just Jen's so.
And we're so lucky in the back half of this season that like she gets to show that because it's so stuffed down in the front part, and then after everything goes down, we see a lot more of that with Rinko, and so much so with Alice. Like Alice feels human. Alice feels wonderful and like someone you want to spend time with.
I'm seeing John's comment. John Allen just made a comment.
John, I was going to say, to be more as a blunt way of like, I'm pretty sure it's voice actor.
I'm sure we do the Alice Rinko conference style of like being nice, but yeah.
John and John again, he since he inserted himself into the conversation.
Get off the ocean turtle. Get out.
John actually took Critter in a direction that I wasn't thinking it was going to go. I thought Critter was going to be kind of more straight. And John actually had so much fun playing him, but the colors that he played him in were fun and yet still kind of sinister in a way. But that it wasn't at all what when I was adapting the script, when I was listening to the Japanese, I wasn't going, this is how Critter's going to sound like in English, because I kind of get an idea of how a character would sound like in English or how I would play that character if I was an actor. Usually it turns into something else once a real actor is cast.
Come back to that. John has a reply.
No, man. When John really made Critter exciting and fun and kind of lovable in his own kind of sinister way.
We stand dimensional characters.
Yeah.
Well, it does make it far more interesting than having a clear-cut bad character that you're just like, well, I don't like them, and you're done, because then you don't care. Critter was definitely a very amusing kind of villain. He wasn't necessarily as going up to somebody and, murdering them per se. And it was interesting having, as we've talked about, how like Higa and Critter were kind of the two sides. And as we learned, Higa's not as so good as we thought, but yes. And shout out to John Allen, who joined on a previous week. Yay. This I did appreciate this too. We had Critter reacting with the deaths was so good. There we go. We had the bad boy version for sure. So the other, speaking of Higa, we had the other last bit we didn't really talk about is how are they going to connect the ocean turtle to the outside world? The network connection's not working. The seed nexus. All this, definitely a lot more tech stuff in this season for sure, of like detailing everything. And you're like, wait, what? Okay. Oh, shout out to Alice for making it digestible of like, wait, hold on one more time. And yay for closed captioning to be like, wait, what are they saying? We learn that the connection, you say Clonito?
Clonito.
Yeah. Points out they're talking that Heathcliff
Kitty clone
is gonna be the connection, and Kirito tells Higa to find him, which is actually really like almost logical. That makes sense point, because we learn that this entity before that we thought was gone is in the real world via a robot. So clearly they have some connection that they're able to do into who knows where. Yeah. So we'll see where that leads, because we don't know yet.
Where's my boyfriend? He's somewhere in the network. Yeah.
That's another place.
All the robots.
Yeah. That's another place we're so lucky to have Rinko, though, because like they could also get the connection back with money, which the politicians, if they wanted to decide to weaponize the underworld, like they would get money instantly, but they don't want to do it that way. So that's thank you, Rinko.
Kickstarter.
Yeah. and now she's in charge, so at least we know like the ethics of Wrath will be safe. As yes, she's allowed to make them. You know, I assume there's always compromises that have to happen to make other things go. But yeah, what a weird job interview it was, ending up on the Ocean Turtle, just like, I'm just gonna go help this nice girl Asuna out and like wake my friend up, and then I'm not even gonna bring other clothes, just my heels. It's gonna be fine. And then like
just gonna be
48 hours later, she's like, I'm in charge of this company.
Well, there we go. Yeah, Rinko raising one robot and crushing another. It's been a crazy time for her.
All my best friends are AI. Yeah, yes. That's super accurate.
That tells you something. And then it's like, oh, now I'm in charge.
Surprise!
Yeah. And then John Allen says, thank you very much. You're too kind. And well, this one, yes, we will see more. So in the light novel, you will see more where he is in the start of the epilogue, and then we'll see more soon. So yes, thank you for no spoilers, everybody, because yes, clearly the subtitled version is out there, but we're talking about the dub version, so everyone's doing a great job we're focusing on that. Yes. That's an interesting thought. So Higa's saving Kirito's copy, but not Asuna. Sounds like the start of an evil origin story. But I like that our Clonito points out that, you know, they had this discussion because come on, they've dealt with people and scientists and, you know, they understand that something could happen. But that's an interesting thought.
I mean, living for 200 years. What are you going to talk about? Right? What are we having for dinner? You're going to start thinking, you're already going to start thinking, okay, so what if this happens? All right. What if that happens? What if this other thing happens? So
contingency plans up the wazoo for sure.
Yeah.
I like how he's like, hey, Higa. Yep, knew this was going to happen. Definitely talked about this in year like 155. All right, so here's what we're doing.
They just explain footsies and talking about like their mortality. It's great.
Yeah.
But like,
what was that?
But I guess that's what a lot of us do.
Yeah.
Just thinking about like, yeah. Who would we leave our cats to?
Oh yeah,
cat.
Yeah.
They're having a discussion of essentially a living will in more than one way, for sure. I don't know. It almost sounds like the clone Kirito is disappointed. Like, Higa, oh, you did it. All right. I thought so.
But then there's ethics problems there too, because that's a human. Like, Kirito is a human entity. So, like, is Clonito any less Kirito than Kirito?
Mm-hmm.
But all humans are infants to them now, so it's just
that's true.
You infant, I knew you were gonna do this. Cheerios everywhere again, and now I got to clean it up.
We have the two of them meet. That would be interesting. That's
mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's what's been set up too.
Yeah.
Again, I haven't read Beyond War of Underworld, so I don't know what's going on in the Unital arc, I think it's called. Yeah. But they definitely go to great lengths to set it up, the Kirito and Clonito meeting. So
now, if there was a clone of you, would you want to meet it? And any other comment on that? Oh, we got Alex shaking head. No. Okay. No. Jen, what about you?
I'm going to be like, oh, you're also tired and overburdened right now. Great. Well, that's two of us. Let's not take a nap.
No, because then it would be different. Because look, so here's something. Guys, a little closer. Okay. Tell me if this isn't real. There is the version of you that you see in like the mirror, right? And then there's the version of you that you see when someone takes a picture of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you know this, but not very many people take pictures of me. And so it's really weird.
Screenshotting right now. Just kidding.
No. But even if you took a picture of me, I would see that picture and go, holy shit, that's what I look like. That's what I dress like. That's the face I make when I'm, doing those kinds of things. So but in a mirror, it's different. It's like, I'm like looking at myself in the mirror, brushing my teeth, going, oh shit, I need a haircut. Yeah, but you still look all right.
There's a thing on TikTok where people are doing it where you can like do the face because what you see is the reverse because what you're seeing in a mirror isn't what other people are seeing.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely a topic that people have brought up.
Yeah, so if my clone's walking around and shit dressed like me, and even if it isn't dressed like me, I'd just be like, oh my God, who the fuck is this freak? You know, and then I go, oh God, that's me. And then I'd probably kill myself.
Oh my God.
But like, okay.
This took a turn. Well, we never got your answer on the 200 years thing, but I feel like you're like, nuke that for
you'd be like,
yeah, I probably wouldn't want to do that either, just because, again, it's like, I think it would be more interesting to have that time again. I've lived the 200 years, and it's like, well, now I got a chance to live however much longer I'm going to live, and maybe that'll be cool. That said, if I learned something about myself or the world or people or whatever, something that I felt was something that I could absolutely not let go of, then I'd save those 200 years. But knowing me, I doubt I would learn anything really. And so I'd just be like, I'd rather have, whatever time I have left. So go ahead and erase it. That's cool.
I was going to say, clearly nobody has any vampire fantasies here of wanting to live forever, of like 200 years, that's nothing, those vampire stories. And they're like, I'm 1,000 years old. And
no, plus those are like the bad years. That's like, you're already like, you're like 100 and whatever. You're like barely holding it together. That's not like, you hear how tired he is. I'm tired now. And that 200 years on top of that, I just want to go to sleep.
All right. And Kayli, what about you? Would you want to talk to your clone self?
I'm pretty sure we'd get arrested like within about 10 minutes.
Wait, why are you pretty clearly sure?
Donut shop.
Because there's no way that it wouldn't instantly be like, let's go pull pranks. This is going to be hilarious. And then it escalates too quickly because I already know how that went when I decided to pull pranks just by myself in middle school and almost had a permanent record. So yeah, I mean, not so good. I pick the people that I'm very close to in life because they keep me from doing the crimes. Not that I'm like want to do the bad things, but sometimes it just goes and I'm like, this is fun. And they're like, that's not fun anymore. And I'm like, okay, thanks for letting me know.
Yes, someone help me get off this roof. Yeah.
No, that has happened multiple times.
I knew it. I somehow knew that. That's where my brain went immediately. It was like, what can I get up onto that I shouldn't be on, like a cat?
No, that's what I do. I climb trees and stuff. That's why I don't go out drinking. Like I climb trees.
So you're just embarrassing to be out with in public then. That's not a crime.
It sounds like an awesome time. We need to hang out more, and I look forward to that.
Oh God, there's Kayli climbing the tree. She wants a selfie. Here we go.
Sometimes I'm swinging too. Yeah,
I'd be climbing that tree. Yes.
We're gonna put some donuts down here too. Don't worry. We'll have the donuts. We'll have you in the tree, and hashtag Gremlin. Right, Kayli? Gremlin, Kayli, is it?
That's the right one. You got it.
There you go. Yes. Got Kayli's
two Kaylys we have. We have a clone Kayli and a real Kayli.
Right. Kayli, would you say you're a little bit like a tomboy like Alice?
I don't know if I'd call Alice specifically a tomboy.
Not necessarily.
I just don't think she sees norms the same way that we do. Like it's just not a thing in that society for feminine to mean weak. Like we maybe have a preconception of, even though that's not true. But am I kind of like a more rougher, maybe slightly more masculine personality person? Yeah, I am.
And then, Alex, I don't know if you saw this one earlier. Apparently, they feel you've definitely thought about this a bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have to. I mean, the lines have to make sense to me.
Right?
Yeah. So, and again, having read the books and getting all of the internal monologues, being able to read all of that and process that before working on the show, it all helps. And and then, I learned some stuff too. Learned some stuff about metaphysics and quantum physics and stuff about AIs and basic programming. And Jen, helped out on a couple of lines too, in a couple of early episodes. What was that?
I think it was it episode 17? There was one episode where Rinko's like, no, you have to change this because, and I looked it up because I'm like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, oh, she's right. That's so much faster. And it was like some polymer technology that I would never know anything about. But I was like, oh, yeah, they're using old tech. They need to step it up. Good job, Rinko. So I was like, that helps, because otherwise I'm like, what are these? I watched the sub and I was like, what did that all mean? I better know before I show up, because it's already going to be a mouthful. So if I don't know what it is, then I'm not helping tell this story.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope you think about it a lot, though, too, because if you're trying to explain what's going on, it's like you have to understand what's going on, and then have to help the actors too. Which, speaking of that, Bryce tweeted about it. So the last bit we didn't quite mention. We did a little bit, but Kirito is at the end dreaming of Yu-Gi-Oh and is very sad, upset about it. And then his sister comes in and is like, tell me everything. And it's an interesting scene too, kind of just touching upon grief in a way, and how does one process that? And for Lifa, the way is tell me all the things about this person, because it's keeping their memory alive, good and bad. And it feels like Kirito does need to tell somebody, and in a way telling somebody about this person you've lost keeps them alive. And then we'll just touch upon too how Bryce mentioned it was a very important scene to do and was very emotional. So Alex, how was it directing that scene to get that emotional performance out of him?
Bryce knew what was coming up, and we made sure that we did it on a day that he could do it. I know we recorded around it, because he didn't want to do it this one particular day, because he knew it would wait a second, am I thinking of that right? That might have been the attack yell. Never mind. So, sorry, there was a couple times I had to record around things, because Bryce wasn't able to do it now because he had a different session coming up after or something like that. But Bryce knew what was coming up, and he knows how to access that kind of grief. We've worked together on, Kirito's, when Yu-Gi-Oh dies, he accessed it there. There were, let's see, there was a couple of, I think there was something in Blue Exorcist, I remember. He opens himself up to do it, and he knows how to do it. We only did, I think, 2 takes. The first one, I think the first take, I couldn't understand him clearly on certain particular words that needed to be understood.
So hard.
Because he was crying so hard. And then I think that was the second take that everybody saw last night. So, but I hate it when an actor, has to put themselves through stuff like that. Anything that's really, traumatic, emotional, trying kind of dredging up those things, or when actors are put in a situation where they have to I guess follow along on sort of scenes of assault and stuff. I know that stuff is an actor has to put himself in a position to deliver a performance that has some truth to it, and some believability. And some people don't have lines. They just open themselves up to it and go for it. Some actors have a line where they don't cross emotionally. But I don't think Bryce has those lines. He doesn't draw those lines in the sand. So when he says, okay, give me a second. Okay, I'm ready. And then we, roll it, and then we go. So it takes him a second to get himself into that spot. And then he just lets it rip. So, yeah.
Yeah. And Jen, if you want to touch upon your experience, because Rinko had that kind of emotional scene last week.
Yeah.
But as an actor, how is it for you to get into these emotional scenes? And then also, how do you get out of it and, leave that in the booth?
Yeah, I've been doing the acting thing for a while, but I've been in shows that I'd done in theater where I had some characters that had to go to some places that weren't comfortable. And I sort of learned from that, for me, and every actor is different. Some people are very what they call method, and they pull their memories of things. Other people do other things. And I've found there are certain places where if I reach for a certain memory or something, then it's not healthy for me mentally to do that. And that's something I learned working on a couple of plays. And so I guess I guess it is kind of a line, like there's probably a small like light in the back going like, are you making a safe choice? But with Rinko, I didn't have to like dig into some like dark, like substituted other thing. Like I think, many folks, you have love, you have loss, and you figure out which memories are safe for you emotionally to connect to, where you can walk away afterwards and shake it off. And, you might be like, I'm going to eat a cookie. I'm going to hug a stuffed animal. I'm going to like scream into the void for a second, like whatever you need to do to just sort of like not take that with you. And then there are other things that you might connect to where like it's harder to detach from that. And so I think it's just as you experience things, you go, okay, this one is unhealthy, and maybe in a year this will be healthy for me to think about. But for Rinko, Alex was wonderful working on that, where, we would vocally, it was also, a stressful thing, but he'd be like, hey, if you need a moment, like, let's just take a second, let me know when you're ready. And so I would actually I have like this like foam on the wall there. And I would like, just like put my head against the foam with like all the might of my body and just like, be like, okay, back to Rinko zone. And then you're like, okay, how was that? Like, did it peak? Like, was that too loud? Are we okay? And then you go back to Jen, and then you're like, okay, back to Rinko for take 2. That's just how I work. But, like, I think it's really important for anybody who's acting to always be aware of if you're putting yourself in a place that you don't feel like you can get out of, like, and figuring out a safe way for you to like pull that ripcord and keep yourself from taking that with you. You definitely get a little bit of like an emotional hangover on certain projects. Like I'm pretty sure I've had a good cry after that session for a few minutes of just like, okay, like I'm letting it go. But it can be very hard to access something that you're not healed from. And I think it's just knowing what's comfortable for you and knowing when to say, hey, I'm going to need a minute either to get into this place or to get back out of it.
Yeah. Or, hey, can we do this next session? You can always do that too.
Yeah.
You can say, I'm not ready for it today.
Right.
Can we hold off on it?
Yeah.
Which is always a smart thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And then Kayli, for your own experience as an actor, and then someone asked too of, was there a particular scene for Alice that was the saddest or maybe even hardest to get into it to cry for you? And then what was your process like?
I mean, there's a few, but I think, losing Bercoli was probably one of the saddest ones I've had to get into. I'm definitely one of those not so many boundaries people. And maybe I should kind of take better stock and see if I need to be setting more boundaries for myself in the future. But because right now I just kind of am like, if I can get the best performance out of going for this, I'm going to go for it. And like, it's been okay. But sometimes, like, there might be like a couple days after and I'm like, okay, well, that's, affecting other aspects of my life. Maybe I could find out how to compartmentalize that a little bit more. But
it's training. It's honestly, it's just, you gotta, and it's not every sort of school of acting like trains you the same way. I mean, again, like method will, you have to like scream at a fucking wall, with full blown tears, for like a whole like class, like, it's not, and it doesn't change for like a year of classes. It's until you get it so that it's believable. And then there are some other things that are like method variants that, they're psychological mind fucks. But you got to find the actors who can access painful emotions and convey them believably, usually have a lot of training in different schools. There are a few who just sort of are naturally adept at doing stuff like this, but quite a few really good actors who can sort of seem like they shake it off after they're done with a role or a part or a take or whatever. They usually have a lot of different kinds of training.
That makes sense. I've definitely gotten better at, like, my first couple years out here. It would wreck me for days sometimes, and like I can shake it off a lot more now. Yeah. Like there's times like I'll leave the session and
you're getting a thick skin.
Yeah, maybe
your skin's getting thicker. Yeah, your skin's getting thicker.
Maybe that's probably true. It's
back to our point on what makes you human, having pain, guilt, suffering, and all that. That's part of it too. But then it makes you appreciate all the good stuff, for sure.
I remember working on a play that was really just emotionally hard, and the end was really rough. And like we all would just stand there backstage, like we would go out and we would bow, and then we would just literally stand in a huddle and just like cry for like 5 minutes, and just like try to like, you know, a couple of other actors carried it a lot longer, but we would like, we're just gonna stand here now after we've had like this fight and like there was like death and all of it, and we would just like stand there and we're like, we're gonna hold each other until we're okay. You can't do that now, you know, in a situation like this. Like, I'm sure after I recorded this, if we were in the actually the studio, I would have been like, Alex, just hold me for like a second. Can somebody just like please? Instead,
our
like,
engineer would be like coming up and hugging you. It'd just be like this big
I'd be
wall
like, I just need it. You know, instead I'm like, what's my biggest stuffed animal? And I definitely like sat on the couch with like a narwhal and was like, all right, so we're good. We're gonna eat some dinner in a little bit. It's gonna be fine.
That's like the lucky thing about having work from home. I'll just like, my boyfriend will work in the other room, so I'll come out of the booth and I'll just like walk in all sad and I'll just be like, I need a hug. He won't ask questions or anything. He's just like, okay, and then go back and do my work.
Yep. You're like, I had a session and I got there's a lot right here. Yeah.
Well, speaking of sad, we're towards the end of our show and only one more episode left in this arc. Oh my goodness. So it's coming to the end. Any other final thoughts you'd like to share? Clearly no spoilers, but you know, everybody stay tuned for next week to see who shows up. But is there anything else you'd like to add, Kayli?
Just that after working on a project for this amount of time and the same character for a few years, like the endings are so weird. Like it's just like, oh, it's just going to be done as far as we know next week. And yeah, I'm not ready.
And then also I would say then we'll go to where can people find you as well? So, and any other projects you are working on right now that you would like people to know about, or anything that's come out recently you want people to go check out. Kayli, we'll go back. Let you. I was like, I didn't say that part first, so then we'll let you finish up that part.
I do some music stuff sometimes. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Kayli Mills. Sometimes I do TikTok. My TikTok is the Donut Gremlin.
Oh my God!
It is.
Seriously?
I write donut reviews and stuff sometimes. And then...
Oh my gosh! Is that what gets me to finally download TikTok? Is that going to be it?
You have taken your gimmick to new levels.
It's not a gimmick; it's a lifestyle.
It is.
You need to be a pro wrestler now, Kayli.
Get a Donut Queen T-shirt.
My first TikTok
thumbs up on your sweet reviews.
Yeah, but so you can find me, and I post stuff that I'm working on, and I post donuts, and I post nonsense. So if you're into any of those things,
nice.
And the occasional Kayli up a tree.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I do voice acting, so I guess
sometimes. You know, and SAO has been so special, like not just because Rinko is always going to be a character that I carry in my heart, but I've made so many amazing friends through this, like getting to work with Alex, like Kayli I met like at the SAO panel.
And then you over and we had a party in the before times.
Yeah. And then and there was like a bowl of chips with like Rinko on it, and it was amazing. And you know, it's been really special getting to like know these folks and also like connect with people who love this franchise and who, you know, through Twitter and other places where, you know, you get to share that stuff in real time. And so I'll miss that, you know, when it's not on the air anymore, getting to have those like the 10 p.m. Pacific to 10:30, like everyone's watching it, and on the commercial break, everyone's tweeting about it. Like that's a really fun experience. So you can find me on Twitter at Jen Losi. I'm also on Twitch where I stream Genshin Impact, which I'm currently I voice Ganyu, and you can get me for the next like 36 hours. You can play as me. And then next month, Kayli, who is my coworker in that game, her character's actually featured coming up in the next expansion. So be good to Ganyu and Kaching. We work hard. So that's what I'm up to when I'm not screaming or crying in the booth.
And throwing up some thank yous from everybody for all of you who are here joining today. Thank you everybody for saying those as well. And then Alex. I
mean, I didn't think I'd be you know, still working on Sword Art. It's been awesome, getting to, you know, watch how things progress and how Kirito is maturing. It's been great, being able to work with actors I've never worked before in, you know, in characters that they have fun with. I mean, I'm sad it's over. I don't know. I mean, okay, whatever Progressive is going to be, I have no idea whether I'm going to be involved in that or not. I hope so. But I may be working on something else I have no idea. So if this is the last of the Sword Arts that I get to work on, I'm glad I worked on it, and I'm glad I got to work on it with people like Jen and Kayli and Brandon, Imari, you know, John Allen, Greg, everybody in Alicization and War of Underworld. They were all, you know, really, really amazing people, you know. Actors, great too, sure, but just as people, they were pretty cool. So I feel very fortunate that I got a chance to, you know, have fun with everybody for, you know, a couple of years, off and on. So
I'm gonna cry again, and we're just
oh, don't cry. No, you don't.
I cried in my last session.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me there. That's my Twitter handle. That's the only place you can find me. Really don't talk about anything interesting like Kayli obviously talks
That's
about.
Not true. You taught me about blueberry fritters, and they were amazing.
Oh, so you did get some. Okay, good.
I did.
Yeah, those are pretty good, and they're open
really
24 hours, girl.
Mm-hmm. Fresh
So,
batch,
yeah.
10 p.m.
Yeah, they're super good. But yeah, you can find me right there on Twitter. I mean, I limit my Twittering just because Twitter drives me psychotic, especially over the last 4 years, seeing, you know, voice actor announcements, people just, you know, having fun, and then, you know, politics takes from, like, you know, just going, oh shit, that's happening now. Oh, they're killing people in the streets. Fantastic.
I just,
you know,
it's fan art now because the world is too insane.
Yeah, it's just, it became, well, no, I mean, it's you know, social media. I remember when all my friends started getting on this new thing called Facebook, and they're like, oh, it's so fucking great. Oh my God, I'm reconnecting with people from high school and middle school and kindergarten. And I'm like, why? You know, why is this, why is this a good thing? You know, show me what Facebook is about. Show me what one of these posts are. Oh, look, that's the family that they have. Oh, that's all they post are just pictures of them having fun and how great their life is. You know, shit like that. So social media has always been kind of, well, no, I'm just,
I'm gonna be like, my ice cream fell on the floor.
No. Again, I don't have ice cream. You social media is like this blank canvas, right? You get what you put into it. So, you know, if you put in a certain kind of energy and you only let that kind of energy in, because, you know, you do have controls like the mute button and the block button and those kinds of things, you'll have a great experience. For me, yeah, I've muted quite a few people who are just fucking annoying.
I'm learning to do that. I'm proud of myself. I'm learning to mute people. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you shut down your DMs to only the people you follow. I
learned that lesson. Thanks for being on Toonami.
Yeah. So I mean, it's, you know, there are things you can do, but still, I find Twitter, you know, is the only thing I can handle, just because, you know, if a fan has a question and I see it in the notifications, I'm happy to answer it if I can. And again, you know, promoting the shows that I work on, you know, just saying, hey, it's out there if you guys want to check it out, and here's who's in it. You know, Kayli, Jen, Bryce, Jeremy, you know, whatever. I mean, that's always really fun too, because then I get to see, you know, how people are reacting to it. But yeah, so you can find me there on Twitter if you want. If not, that's cool. You can find You can find Kayli and Jen, someplace else too.
Yeah.
They're way more fun to hang out with than me. I guarantee
Maybe
you
in
that.
your local tree. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I'm under a plush narwhal on the couch is where I am. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Nice.
And
You're
y'all
plenty fun.
y'all can find me online at Twitter, Instagram, and I was gonna say here on YouTube too, and Twitter, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. There we go, all at Carrie Z Lane. And while you are here on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, so then you know when the next videos are coming out. Because I'm talking SAO with these awesome people and other awesome people. Also cover American Gods with my friend Flavito. That's also a really fun and crazy show. Other fun philosophical discussions there too, as well as anime reviews. And on Instagram, there are hour-long anime voice actor interviews with some SAO people as well. So go check those out. So thank you, everybody who joined the the discussion. And again, if you're watching this later, no worries. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. It's so great to have you part of it. And thank you so much. People have some lovely comments. It really means a lot that you all appreciate this, appreciate the guests, and appreciate these shows being made. I love that you love it, and it really means a lot. So thank you for saying that as well. And huge thank you to my guests, Alex, Jen, Kayli. So fun to talk with you all. And
thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always a treat. I am sad that the road is ending, but
but there are other roads, right?
Yeah, I was like, that wasn't even a good metaphor. My brain just kind of fell out. I was like, mostly I'm just sad, but it's been so fun to come on your show and chat and spend time with people that I think are awesome, who I wouldn't be seeing otherwise. So thanks for tricking them into hanging out with me by getting us all together.
It's my nefarious plan to just
I love it.
Everyone.
I'll send you that cash.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Great. Well, again, thank you everybody so much for tuning in. And next week is the finale. Oh my goodness. Can't wait to talk about that, because I'm guessing it's going to be a crazy finale. And just stay tuned to see who the guests will be. All right, cool. Have a great week, everyone. Stay safe and see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the support.
Bye.